In this episode of A Fighter's Life, we take a look at the life and career of Irish superstar Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was born on July 14, 1988. He was born and raised in the rough neighbourhood of Crumlin, Ireland. As a youngster, he excelled in football, playing for Lourdes Celtic Football Club, but at the age of 11 he began to pursue boxing. He became a member of the Crumlin Boxing Club up until he reached the age of 17, and during this time he won a Dublin Novice Championship. McGregor then began a plumbing apprenticeship in 2006, but chose to quit the profession to pursue his dream of becoming a professional fighter. When Conor turned 18, he was introduced to the sport of MMA by future UFC fighter Tom Egan. He began to train mixed martial arts and became the first Irish person to gain a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. On February 17, 2007, Conor McGregor made his amateur debut in MMA. Following his win against Kieran Campbell, he was signed by MMA promotion the Irish Cage of Truth. The following year, he started training at the Straight Blast Gym under the guidance of John Kavanagh. Then on March 9, 2008, he fought in his first professional MMA bout at lightweight, where he won against Gary Morris. He also won his following fight before suffering his first loss on the 28th of June of the same year on his featherweight debut to Artemir Satenkov by submission. His next loss came after back-to-back wins, this time on his return to lightweight against Joseph Duffy, again by submission. Conor McGregor then went on a run of 6 straight wins, moving between featherweight and lightweight and stopping every opponent. Following these victories, on the 2nd of June 2012, Conor captured the Cage Warriors featherweight strap by submitting Dave Hill in the second round. Then in his very next fight, Conor McGregor won by first round knockout to win the Cage Warriors lightweight championship and becoming double champion or champ for the very first time. On February 2013, the UFC announced that they had signed Conor McGregor to a multi-fight contract. In doing so, he became only the second fighter from Ireland to compete for the company following Tommy Egan. On the 6th of April 2013, McGregor made his UFC debut against Marcus Brimage, winning the fight by knockout in round 1. After his debut win, Conor then went on a 4-fight win streak, beating the likes of Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. During this time, an already popular McGregor became a household name and on the verge of superstardom. He had brought new eyes to the sport of MMA and was about to get his chance to become UFC featherweight champion, challenging a 10-year unbeaten Brazilian, Jose Aldo. McGregor was expected to face Aldo on the 11th of July 2015 at UFC 189. The UFC was so confident that the fight would exceed expectations, they increased the promotional budget for the event, Dana White stating that the UFC spent more money promoting Aldo McGregor than any other fight in UFC history. They embarked on a 12-day world tour, visiting 8 cities in 5 countries, including Aldo's home country of Brazil and McGregor's hometown in Dublin, Ireland. However, on the 23rd of June, Aldo suffered a rib fracture during training that to pull out of the event. McGregor remained on the card, albeit a change of opponent in the form of Chad Mendes. McGregor went on to win the fight by TKO in the second round, becoming UFC's interim featherweight champion. After all the hype and anticipation, on the 10th of August it was announced that Jose Aldo vs Conor McGregor champion vs champion would take place on the 12th of December 2015 at UFC 194. Conor McGregor would go on to knock out the 10-year unbeaten champion, who was on an 18-fight win streak, in just 13 seconds with a vicious left hook. Following the victory, the newly crowned featherweight champion had his eyes on more gold as he was scheduled to fight lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos. Unfortunately, Rafael had to pull out of their planned lightweight title fight due to a foot injury, which in turn instigated McGregor in jumping up one more weight class to fight Nate Diaz at 170 pounds, a whole 25 pounds difference from Conor's previous fight and 15 pounds more than the scheduled bout against Dos Anjos. The Irishman was eventually worn down by the bigger Diaz before submitting to a chokehold, ending his 15-match winning streak at UFC 196. They would eventually lock horns again in the rematch at UFC 202. This time Conor would win by majority decision, which seemed to be an instant classic. While Conor was engaged in a rivalry with Nate Diaz, Eddie Alvarez had dethroned lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos. So naturally, Conor's attention turned to Alvarez and the lightweight belt, as he was determined to recreate the success he had in Cage Warriors by becoming double champion, but this time in the world's biggest MMA company, the UFC. At UFC 205, Conor McGregor delivered arguably his most impressive complete performance of his MMA career with a second-round TKO of Eddie Alvarez in November 2016, becoming the new lightweight champion and making history, becoming the first fighter in the UFC to hold two belts simultaneously. After winning the lightweight championship at 205, McGregor announced that he'd be taking time away from the octagon, anticipating the birth of his first child. McGregor spent the majority of his public appearances in early 2017 campaigning for a boxing match against Floyd Mayweather. Then on the 14th of June 2017, after months of speculation, it was announced that Conor McGregor would indeed compete in his first professional boxing match against undefeated Floyd Mayweather. Although Conor put up a better than average fight against Floyd Mayweather, the boxing match ultimately ended in the 10th round, a TKO win for Money Mayweather. McGregor's relationship then with the UFC became difficult to say the least due to his inactivity in the octagon that prompted UFC President Dana White to strip him of his lightweight and featherweight titles in early 2018. Then McGregor made his long-awaited return later that year in October at UFC 229 after nearly 2 years out of the cage, challenging new lightweight champion, undefeated fighter Khabib Nurmagomedov. The bitter rivalry between the pair was at fever pitch due to the infamous bus attack which took place on the 5th of April earlier that year, when McGregor and his entourage attempted to confront Khabib due to him and his team cornering McGregor's stablemate Artem Lobov at a hotel lobby in Brooklyn in a minor altercation a couple days prior. The incident concluded with McGregor taking hold of a metal dolly and launching it through the bus's window, then proceeded to run off laughing. At UFC 229, McGregor lost by a 4th round submission to Khabib. This then led to the two sides erupting in a post-match brawl, resulting in a 6-month suspension for McGregor and a 9-month suspension for Khabib. Then well over a year later, Conor McGregor returned to the octagon to face Donald Cowboy Cerrone in a welterweight bout on the 18th of January 2020 at UFC 246. McGregor's return was a success. He finished Cowboy Cerrone with a 40-second TKO, the second fastest win of his career and the first victory in more than 3 years. The win made McGregor the first fighter in UFC history to hold knockout finishes in the featherweight, lightweight and welterweight divisions. Due to COVID, Conor McGregor's comeback season was brought to a halt, and the Notorious didn't fight again until January 2021, a whole year later. He returned at UFC 257 against former opponent Dustin Poirier, of which he beat in a featherweight contest in 2014. This bout, though, contested at lightweight, didn't end well for McGregor, as Dustin Poirier ended the fight with a second-round TKO. This was the first time Conor had ever been knocked out in his whole MMA career. Following the fight, they were matched up again for a third time, and this was announced for the 10th of July in Las Vegas at UFC 264, which ended shockingly with McGregor brutally snapping his leg at the end of the first round. Conor McGregor is on the road to recovery and is already back training now after the gruesome injury and readying a comeback to the octagon. What's next for this UFC star? I guess only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and press that notification bell to keep up to date with every episode from A Fighter's Life.